welcome back to the channel and happy 2025. Welcome to our very first monthly reading wrap up. It's January. I had so much fun reading books this month. I kind of got a little burnt out last year and I felt like I was forcing myself to read certain books. So the mood for this year is to mood read. Feeling the vibes, however I'm feeling, whatever's happening in my life, that's kind of what I'm reading. If you guys have watched any of my other videos, you know how much of a fantasy lover I usually am. I'm gonna say in January, I only read romance books. And 99% of those were cowboy romance books. I'm very much into me just wanting to buy a farm, have a horse, have a cowboy, and just raise my kids on a ranch. So that's very much the vibe in my head right now. So that is what I was reading this month. I read a total of 8 books this month, which I think is quite good for me, and that's 2 books a week, and it's very much on track with my reading goal of the year. So my goal for 2025 is to read 50 books, which is about a book a week, give or take, and I feel like I already checked off 8, so that's great, especially for, you know, those some weeks where you just don't feel in the mood for reading, which happens to all of us sometimes. Without any further ado, let's get straight into all the books that I read. When I read romance books, I absolutely love when it's like an interconnected standalone series. So you've got, let's say it's a bunch of siblings and each book is about a different sibling and their love story. I absolutely love those types of books and series, and that is very much what I read this month. So the first series I read was the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lassoed. Now, I saw a lot of these books everywhere last year. They were very trendy, so I finally picked them up to see what all the hype was about. I read the first 3. So I read Done and Dusted. It was a very cute book. It was like a brother's best friend, small town romance, kind of a forbidden romance. Like, they weren't really supposed to be together and they were kind of hiding it for a while. Very much cowboy, ranch, loving life out in Wyoming. I think it's Wyoming. I might be completely wrong. My geography is not great. But anyway, so Done and Dusted was the first one I read and I gave that a 3 star. The second one was Swift and Saddled, and this one was kind of where the city girl came in and had a romance with the cowboy. They kind of met in a bar and then hook up, and then the next morning they meet each other and the girl's supposed to work for the guy and she's supposed to design this house slash guest house that he's building. Then they kind of like, oh oopsies, I met you in a bar last night and now I have to work with you, so a bit awkward. It was fine. It was like a fun little read. Not my favorite, so I gave it a 2.5 stars. And then the third one, this one has my heart. Like, I cried so much during this book. So the third book was called Lost and Lassoed. Guys, I cannot explain to you how much I love this book. So this one is Enemies to Lovers. I am an Enemies to Lovers stan, absolute stan. This is also a best friend's brother, which if you know anything about me, best friend's brother is my love story, so I just love those. And then also he's a single dad. The guy's a single dad raising his super cute little daughter. Kind of what happens is the dad needs to look after the daughter for the summer, but he's working on the ranch, so he's really super busy, so he has to hire someone to kind of look after the daughter during the day. And then our female main character ends up losing her job and then being available to nanny, kind of babysit for his little girl, but they absolutely hate each other. But anyways, there's like forced proximity. She ends up staying with him a few nights a week so she can kind of look after the daughter, and then their love just kind of blossoms from there. I absolutely loved it. It was so great. Read the other 2 just so you can read number 3. It's great. So definite 5 stars. It's the first 5-star book of the year. Super excited. So that's Lost and Lassoed. There is also the 4th book, Wild and Wrangled, I believe, is coming out this year. And that's sort of going to be a second chance, high school sweetheart, estranged love thing, kind of. Those were the first 3 books I read from the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lassoed. Highly recommend, just for like a nice little cowboy romance, quick, fun, easy reads. Then book number 4 has a bit of a story. So it starts back in Christmas, just before Christmas. I went to the bookstore and I thought, I have to read at least like one kind of Christmassy book. I mean, how can you have the Christmas vibe without the Christmas book? Ended up buying a Christmas book, not knowing that it was the third book in the series. So I started reading and there were all these characters and I had no idea what was going on. Googled it, figured out that it was actually number 3 in the series, and the first one was called Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Also, once again, I've seen the books kind of over social media. So I thought, well, I've bought the third book now. Let me read number 1 and number 2, and then I can read number 3. Little update for you guys. I only read number 1 so far. I can't get myself to read the other 2. Like, it's kind of advertised as a Grumpy Sunshine book, and I love Grumpy Sunshine. Like, I absolutely love when the guy's like super grumpy, you know, he like hates the entire world except for this like absolute sunflower of a girl that he meets. I was expecting those kinds of vibes. It was not that. It was definitely not that. The girl was kind of more grumpy than the actual guy was. The guy was just sad and depressed because his ex-girlfriend dumped him in front of the whole town. It wasn't a Grumpy Sunshine. It was like 2 sad and depressed people. I don't really know where the sunshine came in. Anyways, there wasn't much character development, or like even relationship development. It was a very flat story. There's also like an underlying mystery throughout the book, but it's so obvious. Like from the moment that it's first mentioned, you know. It's so obvious who the culprit is in this whole mystery. And right at the end of the book, the main character finds out, and it's very anticlimactic. I think as the reader, you know exactly who the culprit is, but the book has been like building and building to figure out who this person is, and then at the end it's like, oh yeah, it's this person. Like, we knew, and she's like so surprised that it was that person, but it was so obvious. Like, it just wasn't great. So I gave it a 2-star rating because I felt bad to give it a 1 star, but to be honest, I think maybe it deserves like a 1.5. Yeah, it wasn't great. And now there's 2 more books at least in the series, and now I'm sitting with yet another book that I have bought that I didn't enjoy. Like, I have to stop buying books because I just buy books that I don't actually enjoy. Anyways, then the next series that I read was Sugarland Creek by Brooke Montgomery. Very much the same kind of vibe. Cowboys, ranch, like young people falling in love. It was great. Okay, so we start with the first one, which is Here With Me, which is a little bit of an age gap romance. I didn't have quite an issue with the romance per se. Like, it was cute and I don't mind the age gap things too much. You know, if it's fine, if it's appropriate and everyone's legal and it's not any kind of funny business, then I have no issue with it. The issue I did have with it is that the male main interest was the girl's ex-boyfriend's dad. Like, imagine dating your ex-boyfriend's dad. No, like, it was so wrong. I feel like a lot of the characters in the book kind of accepted it a little too easily for my taste, for my liking. That was a little weird. But anyways, other than that, I think if he was just a random older guy, completely fine. But his ex-boyfriend's dad, her ex-boyfriend's dad, I mean, that's a bit odd, don't you think? I gave that one a 4-star. I think it lost an entire star just because it was the ex-boyfriend's dad. But other than that, it was quite a nice book. Book number 2 of the Sugarland Creek series, so actually we're on book number 6 now, was Stay With Me, which, once again, like, I gave a 5-star. Guys, best friend's brother. Like, there is just nothing that gets me more than a best friend's brother. Nothing. And the tension in this book, like, the entire first book led up to the second book, and it's basically main character in the first book. It's her best friend who has a crush on her brother, and like everyone knows, and she's liked him like her entire life. But then we see from his point of view that he's also always liked her, but never been able to admit it because he felt like she was younger and it was wrong, and you know, it's his sister's like best friend and stuff. Hi guys, my camera died, so I'm gonna try and remember where I was. I think I was at Stay With Me, best friend's brother. The tension was absolutely insane in this book. Like, I loved it. I think the last thing I said was basically that the guy also loved her for years, but they couldn't really be together for multiple reasons, or like they didn't really confess their feelings for each other. And then after all these years, like, they finally confess their feelings for each other, and then they just start dating, and then the girl finds out she's pregnant. I don't know how I feel about pregnancy tropes yet. I haven't read enough of them to really make a formal decision, an informed decision as well. But the problem with this one was that she got pregnant with her ex's baby. That doesn't sit right with me. So it's a little weird. It was a little odd. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little odd. And now they just basically confess their feelings for each other and start this relationship, and then she finds out she's pregnant with someone else's baby. So that kind of throws a spanner in the works. But still, all in all, 5 stars. Like, give me a best friend's brother romance. Mwah. Especially if it's enemies to lover. 9 out of 10 times I'll probably rate it a 5 stars, just purely because I love those tropes so much. Moving on, book number 7 and book number 3 in this series is Fall With Me. Also an enemies to lovers, and kind of here the guy falls first, but sort of an odd thing. Like, the girl absolutely hates him from the get-go, like the instant that they meet. She absolutely hates him, is so mean and rude and disrespectful to him, and no one can understand why. Like, she never tells anyone why she hates this guy so adamantly much. And then a few years goes by and she gets into an accident. I think she falls off her horse and like hits her head and loses a part of her memory. And so then she wakes up and this guy is there, because he's always cared about her, he's always liked her, but she's hated him for some reason. So she gets into this accident, then wakes up and he's there. And she's like, wow, who's this pretty cowboy here? And then basically they fall in love and she really falls for him. And she's like, why could I have hated him so much? And it takes quite a while in the book to figure out why she hates him. And when you find out the reason, it's like, is that really necessary? Eventually she does get her memory back and she remembers why she hates him, and everyone kind of finds out. But it's all sort of resolved too easily. It was sort of like, oh, okay, moving on, there we go, the end, we're all happily ever after. So I feel like it was resolved a little too easily, but apart from that, it was okay. Not my favorite, not my least favorite, so I gave it a solid 3 stars, right in the middle. Okay, and then book number 4 in the series, and also last book I read for January, was called Only With Me. I didn't really enjoy this one so much. I feel like the characters had so much potential. Like, they had really solid backstories and traumas that could have been delved more into, or, you know, been more a part of their daily lives. So I feel like they had so much potential because they had this massive backstory, but then their actual main story kind of fell a bit flat and there wasn't much to it. Not really. At the end, like, this big thing that happened, but it happened in such a, I don't know, way that it wasn't really relevant, and it was just weird how it happened and how everything came together. So the whole book just felt to me like it was a bit off. Like, everything didn't quite come together as nicely as I would have liked it to. So I gave it a 2.5 stars. It felt rushed, and it felt flat, like there wasn't much to it. So that's the last book I read for January. There is the 5th and final book, I think, of the Sugar Creek series. Sin With Me is coming out in 2025, which is like, the guy marries a girl, his brother's ex-girlfriend, in Vegas, and they wake up and they're married, and it's like, oopsies. Okay, so that might be a fun one. I'm hoping that we won't have a decline in the books, like that it won't be too bad. So I'll look out for that one. Those are the 8 books that I read in January. I'm really happy with my progress so far. Like I said earlier, my yearly reading goal this year is to read 50 books. And I think if I carry on this track that I am now, I'll definitely get there. Basically 2 books every week. You know, it also gives some leeway, like later in the year, if there might be a week or so that I don't read a book. Like, I think I'll be fine. 8 out of 50 sounds good. So with all of that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I am definitely going to stay mood reading for the rest of the year. I felt like that worked so much better for me, and it is not as, I feel like reading's not as much as a chore as it felt like at the end of last year. So I'm going to continue mood reading. I'm very much in my romance era. Finally arrived there. So I'm very excited. Stay tuned for more bookish videos, and I'm just, yeah, I'm so excited for this year. I love a new year because there's like so much opportunity to learn so many things and do so many new things, but also read so many new. So I'm very excited about that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time.